Welcome, Mark. Well, yeah, we're talking security again, and Dr. Ekhomu joins us. He is a strategic security consultant. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, it appears as though 1 week, one trouble, many challenges that the country is faced. Well, yet again, it's Agatu, and the Daily is reporting 40 killed in fresh attack. And we were just talking about what happened in Ekhomu the other day, and then this one. But you know, for those who are just maybe not having any security background, several theories, wild theories, go through their minds, which could inform the subsequent actions, which may not end up well for the polity. But for you, with your background and mindset about security, what's your impression about what's going on here?
Thank you very much. I won't try to second guess the motives of the aggressors, the attackers. Mr. Autumn of Benue State has said a lot about what he thinks is happening there. He has theorized that there's a land grab going on. There's an effort to intimidate members of the communities to abandon their communities to perhaps these so-called foreign invaders that we saw attack a Gongon community, like you just mentioned in your remarks, and so on and so forth. I think what is happening here is that we have a sustained threat environment. We have a sustained threat environment. Normally, when we speak in security, we look at the risks, that is probability of occurrence. But now we're no longer looking at risk because we know it will happen today, it will happen again, it will happen again. Agatu has been in the news for so long for the wrong reasons. It's been attacked over and over, Gwe West. In fact, the whole of Benue State is under siege, as it were. And so I would say that it is time for us to look at protective measures. We say in security, right now, we need to focus on the threat matrix, no longer on the risk assessment. Let's focus on the threat matrix because we know it's going to happen. So the question is, who are the aggressors? How many of them are coming? Because that you can learn that from their MOs, from their modus operandi. How many of them are coming? Then what are the rings of security? That's what are the circles of security you have around your assets? Assets now being the people in Benue State, the people of Benue State, the people of Agatu, the whole community, whatever you call that community, the land, their little huts, whatever it is, their homesteads. You know, this is what we ought to now focus on. Now, who is going to do this focusing? I have said this practice or this tendency to say federal government, President Buhari, I don't know who else is there in federal government, Mr. Lawan, Senate President, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Irabo, and now the new Chief of Army Staff, Yaya. This is not really security. Security is built from ground up, not from up down. So the community leaders must rise up now to protect their domains. Now, the question, of course, everybody will quickly say, Dr. Ona, what are you saying? How do they protect their domains when they don't have arms? Of course, they have so many. They have a lot at their disposal. First of all, we look at I already said, please, Mr. Chamberlain, get my argument. I said we are in a threat status right now. We are only looking at the threat matrix. And the threat matrix, typical threat matrix will say intention, motivation, and capability. Okay? Now, we've already identified that the threats, the aggressors, that's the header, militia, whatever you want to call them. Sometimes they call them bandits. I don't think those are bandits because I don't want to conflate them. Bandits are operating in the Northwest. These are the guys terrorizing Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto. Let's leave them to be terrorizing those guys. But let's come to the middle belt, that is to Benue, where you are focusing today. These are header militias operating here. We know that. How do we know? From arrest records. We know from even fatality records on the side of the enemies. So, having said that, what is it that we need to do here? We need to set up tripwires. Well, I've said tripwire, and there's somebody say, Dr. Ona, don't trip on your wire. I said, no, I'm not going to trip. Tripwire is just an intelligence concept where you have something further down the street to indicate. Now, they said, let's look at this attack on Agatu. they said these are militias that are operating in Nasarawa State. Now, first, certainly, Governor Sule and his people in Nasarawa, they have a problem. They shouldn't be keeping militias in their state. I mean, not they are keeping them, but they shouldn't have them. They should attempt to flush them out. However they're going to do that, that's their problem. But let's focus on Benue. Now, they said they came through Gua West, and then they came into Agatu LGA. So what is that? There's penetration. They have penetrated. And so, but what is the attempt to detect them? Because every attacker, every threat has some kind of a pre-attack recce that they conduct. So who detected the recce? There was no detection. Now, what is the counter of that incursion that is coming in? So that is where community, Benue has a lot of very vibrant youths. Now, these young people, again, back to our community leaders, these young people need to be organized in some kind of a fashion to provide information. You know, these guys are not spirits. They didn't just disappear and show up in Agatu. They came through Gua West, for goodness sake. Who informed the community leaders in Agatu or anywhere else? Why does Mr. Autumn not have a command and control center in Makurdi? That's what he needs to do. He should set up something like that so that if there's any threat of that nature, it will be transmitted to Makurdi, and Makurdi will relay to all surrounding areas based on the direction of travel. He can now say, look, expect an attack from some bastards riding on motorbikes and what have you. You know, look, we need to get a security architecture that works. It's not about looking at Mr. Buhari or looking at whoever is at the federal level. The Benue governor ought to stand up along with his community leaders. Now, let them stand up and defend their communities. Nobody's going to defend it for you, for goodness sake.
You know, we don't know what exactly he's got. He's not and doesn't have, because I mean, from you're speaking from the results of what has happened. But is your suggestion akin to what we saw and how the some of the assailants were engaged and some of them were eventually neutralized in Igangan the other day?
That's a beautiful concept. That means they are not invincible. You see, Igangan will have taken a heavy hit. But what happened here? Amotekun, local vigilance. You know, so this is it. That's your answer. If you are waiting on federal resources to come and solve your local problems, you will wait, and all of you will die before the resources get there. They just don't have enough of them, and they are not mobile enough. We don't have to go after these guys. That is why the bandits are roaming free in the Northwest. We don't have helicopters. That's why ISWAP is ruling communities in the Northeast. You know, so we don't have a lot of platforms, military platforms. We are still in a conventional mindset, conventional material, that is in terms of equipment. In terms of our battle, our guys are gallant. They are doing well. I love them. I pray for them every night when I go to bed and in the morning when I wake up. But you know, the point here is the local communities, let us stop being, I don't know how to call it, let's stop being rulers, let's start being leaders. Let us put our heart into the welfare of our people. Let us worry about what's happening with our people. We need to look at unity of command within, again, let me go back to the case study you gave me, Benue State. Go back, what is the unity of command and control structure in terms of state security? I'm talking about state security. That is the security architecture of Benue State itself, which is of Governor Autumn. Now, beyond that, how are we relating? What do we look? Okay, let me just give you a simple historical example, sir, that we just put this in context. And I think you and I have discussed it before. The 10-year dirty war in Algeria. How do you think it was won? It was won by the Patriots. Who are the Patriots? These are just regular guys who were deputized. They had the regular Algerian army and all that, but you had these regular guys who were deputized with ordinary chakabulas, what do we call it, den guns, and who control the countryside. Listen, these bad guys are not coming to attack Makurdi frontally. They won't. They will be killed. So what do? They attack isolated, isolated rural areas. So that's what it is. You know, so you now have to design a security infrastructure or a security architecture that takes care of that rural area. Then what's the infrastructure you have? Where are the people? How are they arranged? What is their role? People have to think security in this country. I don't care whether you say it's invaders from Futajalon or wherever. You know, they're invading this country, for goodness sake. You know, and we must defend this country. You know, this is it's so simplistic. I can't understand why we don't understand it.
Well, there's something you said earlier, Dr. Ekhomu. Two things that I would like you to find a way to bridge for us. First of all, you talked about the need for us to focus on the threats as opposed to waiting for something to happen. That's the way it sounds. And then you also talked about the need for us to build security from the ground up, not from the top down. That suggests that there is a way we need to engage the people. So how do we do that? You've also mentioned over and over again here now that there is a need for the people, for us to protect the people and all of that. So there needs to help us find a marriage here of that threats, tackling it from the threat as opposed to the attack. In other words, being proactive as opposed to being reactive. At least that's the way it sounds to me. And then speak to the idea of building the security from ground up as opposed to from top down. How do we go about it?
Mr. Makinde, that's a beautiful question. I love it. You see, we need to, so I am saying, let us stop thinking conventional. Conventional means we are looking from outside in. That is how that's why we always call on the federal resources. Where's the federal government? Where's Mr. Buhari? I am saying let's do an outward-facing infrastructure. Let us build a dynamic and outward-facing security. So how does that work? First of all, it's our community that is under attack. The local communities, they are under attack. Okay, right now, we know that. That's well established. I'm sure that even though you are very loyally your presentations, you would not agree, you would not disagree with that. Now, I think secondly, sir, that we need to adopt what we call hunter mentality. What is happening here? This is an asymmetric attack. Look at the attack in Agatu. They came 5:45. By 6:45, they were done and they were gone. So what does that tell you? It's asymmetrical. They don't pick a time. Look at what they did in Igongon. They went to Igongon, and that was a midnight attack. Okay, but thank God the Igongon guys were waiting. They were laying in wait for that attack. So that also shows that these regional and local security apparatus, they work. They really do work. Because if you were waiting for troops to come from Abuja, or where is the closer place, from Ibadan, a second div to come and save them, they will have all been slaughtered before they got there. It was the capability on ground. It was repelling that attack that discouraged them. That's called deterrence. Another concept in security, deterrence. So they were, first they detected them. Certainly there was some kind of a local tripwire. They protected, they defended, and that deterred them, and they went back. So they took some casualties. At least now we have some bodies that we can analyze. So they are no longer UGM, unknown gunmen. We now know some of the gunmen who were down. So that is beautiful. So that's what I'm saying. So to answer your question, sir, I'm saying let us do an outward-facing security infrastructure from the community out. The community becomes the hunter of the attackers. Remember, they are coming to attack us, but we are not going to go and attack them. We will stay, and when they come, we can, to use Nigerian military parlance, neutralize them, or at least confront them, or even just move our women, because now, this is another thing, they are killing our women and children. Let's move our women to unthreatened areas. That's also a beautiful concept there. So I don't think we are so helpless and we are so powerless. I think it's just because we are not thinking about what is the right thing to do. And that's why it appears so difficult for us, sir.
Let me see if we can wind down on this and ask maybe a question that has been asked too many times and that is always being asked when we get stories, reports of these attacks. And it's simple. Why? I mean, for Boko Haram that started over a decade ago, I mean, we could put our fingers on why, I mean, what the mission of Boko Haram is against Western education and all that. But for these attacks that we're seeing, either by the, in fact, let me just focus on the ones we've seen in Agatu and Igogo, call them herdsmen, militia, gunmen, bandits, or whatever. But the simple question of why, how is it hard that we've not been able to come together and say, this is what we're fighting, this is what they're trying to achieve? And I mean, at the different levels. Why is it hard to get that why?
Thank you very much. Well, I think perhaps because the why is looking at us in the face. There's been a lot of discussion in the country about why these attacks are taking place. It's been said that the land in Benue is very fertile, produces good grazing opportunities. And then it also says that we have a situation where it appears the area is undefended. Where I don't want to go because I'm blaming the victim now. I don't want to go there. But I think because also, let me just focus on it. The people have need for that land. Let's put it that way. They need the land. They need to graze their animal. Communities where they have been pushed back against the grazing, they need to punish those communities, which is the concept of bringing in the militia. So you see, I have no problem with herdsmen. Herdsmen are good. Cattle is good. Beef is good. But I have problem with header militia, people who want to kill others for whatever reason. There is no dispute between a visitor and the landlord that cannot be settled. It can be settled, but it depends on how you want to settle it. I can bring out a gun and shoot the landlord, and that's one way to settle it, but that's illegal. And so we are saying that that's that one. But now the real reason, the real why, Mr. Yolu, is the impunity. They can do it and get away with it. So that's why I'm saying let us change our security architecture, because right now it's clearly with impunity. You can do it with great freedom. You do it and you get away with it. And some lazy policymaker, I don't know who to call them, will say, oh, it's some UGM. It's an unknown gunman. Well, it's like unknown soldier. So what do? You just leave it. It's an act of God. And after 2 days, Nigerians are hungry. They will move on with their lives. But, when you start making the UGM pay, he will say, these people, they are too serious here. He will move somewhere else. So let's move the threat next door. That's always our goal in security. We never say we are going to defend the whole. That's why it's better to do a community-based security architecture. You're not trying to defend the whole country. That's the work of the Nigerian police and the Nigerian military. You defend your own local community. They will go to the next community. Now, if those guys borrow from your book, it's like what's happening around the country now. Amotekun is becoming a success model. And I believe you and I and Makinde, we discussed this many years ago, some time ago when they started the Baba Amotekun. When this one has become very popular, and you're going to see it's going to be adopted elsewhere, because the threat appears to be the same. So let us focus on the threats. Let's focus on the threats. Right now, I'm no longer interested in focusing on the politics because this thing is going to tear us apart. But we're not even interested in that. I'm saying defend your community. That's the important thing right here and right now.
And it's a very important important area to live in. And I think subsequently, those are some of the things that we need to focus on moving forward. Because, they say, if you want to make anybody do anything, make it easy for them to do it. So defending your little space will just amount to much if it's put together. We do thank you very much indeed for your perspective this morning, Dr. Ekhomu, Strategic Security Consultant.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain, for having me.